And here we go. You guys, I'm so excited. You're watching the brand new and improved Call Kevin podcast. Some of you listened last year, but we're back. New format. Video. We're here at the To the Moon Creative No, not studio. It is a studio. That's not part of the title, though. To the Moon Creative in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Brand new show. I'm here with my co-host, Lydia. Hello.
Hi, Kevin.
How you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Do we have to sing everything? Is that the case?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
great.
a musical podcast.
Oh,
An improvised musical podcast. So it's same format. We're going to answer your calls. As always, you can call the Call Kevin hotline 323-364-0881. And we'll answer your calls. All right. So I think let's get started. Thanks for listening to the Call Kevin podcast. It's the Call Kevin podcast. It's the podcast of your dreams. It's the Call Kevin podcast. On asking things. Podcast Kevin with Call Kevin. Here's Kevin and Lydia. We're in our new improved setting, recording the show. Call Kevin with video. My friend Lydia's here, talking about things, questions that you send us. You can call the Call Kevin hotline 323-364-0881. Leave a question or a comment, whatever you'd like to say to us. It could be anything. And if you're not in the States, you can use that same number on WhatsApp and send us a voice note. 323-364-0881. I have some shows coming up. You can go check out my website, kevinjamesthornton.com. Lots of shows, New Brunswick, New Jersey, Des Moines, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, Cincinnati, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and more. Go to kevinjamesthornton.com, click on the shows link, and while you're there, check out my merch store. Get yourself a Call Kevin mug. And it was the 90s mug. T-shirts.
Anything your little heart could desire.
Another call.
Please.
Hi, honey. It's Nana. I'm calling from Colorado. Wanted to ask you if you think that people putting all this pressure on themselves to be good at their hobbies is destroying people's mental health. I happen to think that you don't have to be good at your hobby. You, however, are a master at the things that we see you doing. Are there things you're not so good at that you really enjoy? Thanks, honey. Much love to all. Mwah. Bye-bye.
I went to school for musical theater, and I wanted to be a triple threat so badly, and even sort of deceived myself that I was for a long time. But this body doesn't like lift off the floor. You know what I mean?
No,
I took a wait. Well, don't say it like that.
I mean, no, you're a very grounded person.
Like I took tap dancing 101 in college, and I was not good.
Did you shuffle ball change?
I tried,
Really?
but it was more of like a slide smash.
I can flap really well.
Whoa.
I'm a very good flapper. If that's all I had to do
I've heard that.
for a tap dance number, I'm your girl.
My body just won't lift off the floor. Like I tried, everyone around me was like light, floaty beings. And I'm like digging grooves into the floor. But I eventually came to terms with, I'm not really cut out to be like a powerhouse musical theater person.
So you're like a double threat?
I don't even know if I'm that. I think I'm a good actor.
You're a good actor.
I don't have that kind of voice either, really. I tried to fake it for a long time.
I saw you do a musical once. I thought you did
It was okay.
very well.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're in college theater, you're surrounded in delusion.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So at some point I'm like, oh, I'm not actually good at this. I'm good at other things.
Well, that's very, very mature of you to accept that
To let
and
it
move
go?
on.
That I was never going to tap dance?
Well, you accepted this. You moved on.
Mm-hmm.
You've
I don't care that I can't tap dance.
I wanted to like sing, like I can sing, kind of. I wanted to really sing, like belt out a song. Didn't happen.
After all these years and all of the things I've tried to do, like acting, singing, musical theater, the thing I'm best at is saying dumb shit on TikTok. Let's take another call.
Okay.
Hey, Kevin. This is the Smith family from Bradenton, Florida. We love your videos. Our question is, when you were in your church and decided to do your Shamala Hamala, we were wondering, how did you come up with Shamala Hamala? What was the word, like, what made you think of that? Thank you. Bye.
So one of my most viewed TikTok videos is about a memory I have of being in my church, and we didn't speak in tongues, but it wasn't like totally out of the question. And I, when I moved into that new non-denominational world from like the reserved Southern Baptist, I was just so excited to try all of the things. That's the thing I want to stress too, is I think in a lot of my videos, people think that I was like faking it or something, or I was being insincere. I was so sincere. Like I wanted it all to work and be true. And so I remember that moment of like, I'm going to speak in tongues. It wasn't I was not being disingenuous. Like I wanted to do it, and I'd heard people do it. So the Shamala Hamala thing, I don't know if those are exactly the sounds that came out of my mouth. But so it's not like I planned a word to say. It just kind of became that in that TikTok video. But if you have been around churches when they're speaking in tongues, they kind of have patterns. Like they're often like a sound of like hasta basta ba 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 ba, like a hasta basta hasta shasta, or you kind of get into like a shamala hama hala hala hamala hamala. So I chose the shamala hamala. So it wasn't. I didn't clearly just stand up and go shamala hamala.
How different the world would be if you chose Basta Hasta Hasta.
Yeah, that doesn't quite go in a coffee mug. Yeah.
A perfume called Shasta Basta Hasta doesn't roll off the tongue.
It doesn't.
No.
It's not a catchphrase.
Yeah, no.
Shamala Hamala is.
I think Shamala Hamla was well chosen.
Thanks. It's worked out. Before the next caller, I want to talk about my brand new fragrance, Shamala Hamala. It's coming out this fall. It'll be shipped in time for Christmas. It's just a fun idea I had to do to make a fragrance. So many of you like this little catchphrase, Shamala Hamala. The surprise is it's a really lovely fragrance made by a real perfumer. His name is Ethan at Moi Fragrances. Some of you may have seen some posts I've done with him on my page in the past. He put a lot of work into this. He sent me several samples, and Lydia and I both sat down and sampled them. And Lydia chose this one. I've showed it to a couple of other people. Pretty much everyone gravitated toward it. It was number 3 in the set. Mm-hmm. So this is the number 3 tester. It's really lovely. It's very unisex. It's clean. Ethan describes it as aquatic and hints of pineapple. And it's just kind of light and fresh. It's really, really super nice. It's on sale on my website, kevinjamesthornton.com. It's limited. I've already sold about half of it. So if you would like to put this in someone's stocking this holiday season, go to my website and order it. Shamala Hamala, the fragrance, just in time for the holidays. Go grab a bottle.
Hey, Kevin, this is Lisa from Pittsburgh. I'm calling to see if you could talk more about where you got your radical self-acceptance. I, too, am a lesbian. I wasn't fundamentalist Christian, but I knew I was gay in high school and in college. And that radical self-acceptance is something that you display beautifully, and I wonder how long it took you to get there.
I'm so aware that is a thing that people have tuned in to me over the pandemic era on TikTok and Instagram. And I guess it's sort of like when people ask me questions like that, it sort of reflects a mirror back at myself. And I'm like, oh, I guess I am like that. I'm more aware of it now that people see me that way. And it's just been a long road of, I've talked so much about how painful some of my younger years were. And it was a long progression out of that. Like when I showed up, my high school years were 1988 to 1992. And that was like the height of the AIDS era. And all of the messaging I got around any sexuality was, you'll die. But especially if it's gay sex, you will die in 1988, 1992, So that's sort of how my brain formed, with this like fear. And then on top of that, I was in such a super, super conservative Christian setting where there was this other message that if you're gay, maybe you deserve to die. Like maybe that's what AIDS is for, and I sort of carried like limped out of my hometown with that feeling. And I went straight into the arms of the musical theater department, and that decision for sure saved my life, But when I showed up there, everyone viewed me as this like dark, depressed, sulky person. Because I was.
Sitting at the Denny's smoking.
Yeah. And it took many years to sort of just let time do its thing, and even in my 30s, a lot of that pain had cooled off, and I sort of maybe saw things in a deeper way, in a different way. My worldview shifted and healed. But even in my 30s, I was still running, and I didn't know why. Today, I actually can look back and see that it was just a lot of religious trauma that I had not really dealt with, that whole experience. It's a word I didn't even really know. And I wasn't even thinking about Jesus anymore in my 30s, but just like pain can do a weird thing to you, And all through my 30s, I felt like this weird desperation like welling up inside of me about my career, about the choices I had made. And I had this fear that I was going to be like this 40-year-old failed loser artist. And then that's sort of what happened. Like my 40th birthday, do you remember that crappy maroon Beretta that I had? And there was a moment where I hesitate to use the word homeless because it wasn't, I don't want to misuse that word, but all of my belongings were in my trunk. I stayed with you in your spare bedroom many times, and I was just sort of this like lost creature. I don't know if you saw me that way, but looking back, that's how I see myself.
Yeah. I saw you as lost. I also saw you really from the very beginning. I think you did a very good job of putting on a persona that you didn't care what people thought about you. But I think some place deep inside, I think you very much did. And part of that's the artist in all of us. Like we care, we want to be liked, we want to be accepted. I think you did a very good job of not showing that. But I do really feel in the last few years that you've come to a point where, not in a way that you want to be unkind or hurtful to people, but I think you've released a lot of that care about what people think about you. And also that we've talked about this. What does it mean to be successful? Like we wrapped up so much of ourselves in being successful as an artist, but what's being successful as a person?
Yeah.
As a friend, as a son. So I think that I've seen that shift, I think, in you, in that sort of, what does it mean to be successful? It's not just about being successful as an artist.
My definition has completely changed. And I mean, now that I see a bigger picture, I feel like I was like wounded church boy, worldview shattered, straight into a theater department where your focus is, are you going to make it? Are you going to make it in theater? Are you going to be a successful actor? And that was kind of my entire world while I'm healing from the past thing, and then I sort of burst out of college into my 30s on this like chase to like prove that I was worth something, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
And at some point, it happened around my late 30s, moving into 40, of I just want to be happy. I just want to feel good. Like everything I'm doing right now does not feel good. Like, you know, I like trying to be successful is making me really unhappy,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, it sounds cliche, and I guess things become cliche because they're so true. But like, happiness is actually super simple. We cloud it up with a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Hi, Kevin. This is Cindy from Oregon. When you talk about your church from the 90s, I'm curious, were you an arm raiser in your church from the 90s? And was that a reflection of how much the Spirit was in you, how much you raised your arms? In my church from the 90s, the higher you raised your arms, the more you were filled with the Spirit. So that's what I want to know. Thanks. Love you. Bye.
Higher the arms, closer to God, right?
Yes. We were arm raisers. I remember, so the church I went to when I was very young was super, super, I don't want to keep using the word conservative. It was Southern Baptist. It was old fashioned. It was very like traditional and old fashioned. I remember some weird messages of like the pastor was still wearing horn rimmed glasses, but like not in an ironic way. Like the original horn rimmed glasses with like slicked back hair, like from the 50s, you know? And I remember giving sermons that like rock music was evil. And so all of the music was like traditional hymns. Everyone was just sort of like sitting quietly, you know, very reserved, singing old school Southern Baptist hymns. And then when I got into high school and I went to the big mega church, like the worship band was a rock band. It was everyone was dressed hip, you know, there were tons of young people. And yes, there was hand raising. I'd never seen that before. It looked wild. Everyone's in church, and when you sing, you put your hand in the air. And I remember when I first, you know, I wanted to be a part of it. So in the beginning, I did sort of this like underhanded scoop praise, where you have your hands sort of down at your waist, but you're sort of like you know, you're sort of like cupping the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And you're catching it.
And you're it's a sort of a tester. It's like, I'm going to start here.
Yes, it's the beginning.
Yeah,
it's the beginning. This is where I started in this. And this is a great pose. Mm-hmm. But eventually I was like, you know what? This feels better.
Yeah, we did not do any outwardly demonstrative things. No. Now, I think churches have changed very much. And I know the church that my brother goes to now, he plays bass in the band, and they have rock music, and people tend to be a little bit. No, we were, I guess, like you said, very, very conservative. You would, you know, open up the hymnal, and you always knew that you sang verses 1, 2, and 4. Like whoever wrote verse 3.
Why do you skip the third one?
I think the songs were just, somebody decided at some point they were too long, and
4 seems more like the end.
Yeah, so okay. You just never sang 3. So I was like, we should just have a service one day. We just only sing the third
verse Sundays.
Right.
That's gonna pack them in.
I know.
Wow.
It's a thing now. Somebody's gonna do it. All righty.
Let's talk about one of our sponsors. My friend Minty Bongwater has put together a really lovely selection of handmade teas. If you're a fan of Minty Bongwater on TikTok or Instagram, then you already know about this. I've tried all of them. They're really delicious. He puts a lot of care and love into tea. It's his passion. And these are really, really lovely. You can get them on his website, mintybongwater.com. Go check it out. They're lovely. If you're a fan of tea, you can drink it hot or iced. They're delicious.
All righty.
My name is Michelle Cross, and I'm from East Texas. I was just calling to ask you, how did it go whenever you came out to your parents? Or did you ever come out to your parents? I was just curious if they tried to throw the Bible at you or if they were accepting or how they treated you. Love you. I hope to see you live one day. Bye.
Well, they didn't throw the Bible at me. A lot of people ask a question like this, and it would be understandable to assume that my parents were in the church, but they actually weren't. When I was really young, we went to a super old-fashioned Southern Baptist church, and then we stopped going. And when I got into high school, a friend invited me to one of those big, like, middle America youth group churches, and I went, and it became my whole world. You know, those youth groups in that era. In a small town, there's not a whole lot to do, so on a Sunday night, there's like pizza and a band playing, and it was the coolest place to go. You know, so that world, I sort of did it to myself. Like my mom and dad weren't a part of that. And especially by the time I got my driver's license, I was just going to church all the time. You know, my mom and dad weren't there. My mom and dad are fairly liberal people, you know, and I didn't quite know it back then, but supportive of gay people when I wasn't. You know, there was a lot of lack of communication on my part. I kind of never gave them the chance, really. I didn't know, you know, I forgive myself though. It was a confusing era, but I waited a long time to tell them. My coming out was slow. I really drug it out. I never really had a moment. It was just like little by little. When I got into college, I was meeting new people, so it was a little easier to just start fresh, being a new person, you know? And time just sort of went on. And then I called my mom to tell her, and I was definitely in my 30s already. And she was like, I sort of assumed at this point.
Yeah, really.
You know, it wasn't like a shocking phone call, but and they're great. No, they were never terrible about it, not even once.
I have a very dear friend who he was probably in his 30s and had decided that he was going to finally come out to his parents and wasn't sure how they were going to take it. And so he wrote them a letter and he went to visit them. And before he went out that night, he laid the letter on the head of the bed, and he was hoping that they would read the letter while he was gone. And then when he came home, the shock would be over and they could have a conversation about it. Well, he came home and neither one of them said anything. And he was like, oh my gosh, they're so mad at me. And like another day went by and they acted like nothing was wrong. And he was like, he just didn't know what to do. And so finally he confronted them, and come to find out when they went to unmake the bed, like the letter had slipped off the bed.
Oh no.
Behind the headboard. And they
never saw it.
They never saw it. So for like 2 days he was like, what are they just pretending it's not real? Are they freezing me out? Like what is happening? They'd never seen the letter.
That's hilarious.
I know.
There's no right way to do it, I guess. Also, I've wondered, like today, when in the 90s, before the internet, and even in the early days of the internet, like queer people were just all around less visible. And it was less on the consciousness of the world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So people did talk about it, but it's not like how it is now, like where on Twitter, there's like entire threads of people airing their opinion about gay people. And it's become such a polarized thing. I almost wonder if in some ways for a young person today in certain scenarios, it might be more difficult because especially if you have like really conservative parents and they're watching Fox News and sort of getting this message about, you know, every night on Fox News, you hear some kind of anti-LGBTQ thing.
Yeah.
And that's your mom and dad sitting there watching that every night. Like that didn't happen in 1994, you know?
It's also such an interesting thing for me. I have no idea what that would feel like, but to have something that's as personal as, and I know that being gay goes deeper than just a sexual preference, but something that's such an innate part of you as a human being. and feeling like it's something that you have to hide and that you have to tell your parents. Like I didn't have to go tell my parents I was straight one day.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine what that feels like.
There's a part
to
of it
hang on to that.
that's a little infuriating. Like, especially when I look back, it's like why was I made to feel like I had to go around and ask people's permission to exist?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. It is weird for something that's just so fundamentally a part of you.
Yeah.
Till next week, shall we?
Yeah. Please go to my website, kevinjamesthornton.com. Check out my merch store, my shows coming up. Got shows all over the country.
Yeah. And call us again at
323-364-0881.
Ask Questions. We'll answer them.
You can use that same number on WhatsApp. If you're not in the States, record a voice note and send it to that number. Thanks for listening.
See you later.
It's the Call Kevin Podcast. It's the